Hi guys, in this little film, we're going to be learning about the different types of materials that we're going to be using on this course. Drawing is the art of applying various types of media to a surface. Okay. This simple act has a fascinating history. It traces back to the Paleolithic era, where early humans depicted their experience on cave walls, painted in the flickering firelight. A lot of these drawings, of course, at the time were of their prey, animals. In these ancient times, the artist used a crudish mixture of ferric-rich umbers, ochres, and charcoal from the fire, combined with the binding agents of spit and animal fat. And with this, they created their drawings. The materials were applied to the walls, staining the porous rocks, a little bit reminiscent of an Italian fresco. In places like Lascaux, archaeologists have discovered socket holes, indicating the possible use of scaffolding systems similar to Michelangelo's method for painting the Sistine Chapel. Now, there is a dazzling array of media on offer to the artist. Some of the ones I use in my daily life. I've selected these because of their qualities and also because of their speed of use in our very busy lives. So I haven't included anything like oil paint or even acrylic. So this is really so that you can just pick your kit up, on an afternoon and go and make a sketch or a drawing or watercolor. I think it's important to remember the learning lesson from those cavemen that even the most highest quality materials and media can't outstrip an intention. So first of all, let's talk about a sketchbook. So a sketchbook holds a very special place for artists as a secret playground for their creativity, experimentation, and exploring ideas without the fear that anyone is looking. In the context of this course, the sketchbook is emphasized as a fundamental tool for learning. It also serves as a mobile art studio and will provide a source of inspiration. And I love looking through other people's sketchbooks, and you can kind of learn a lot and share a lot with like-minded people who can give you like, oh, I did it that way, and oh, that's really cool. So that share a lot of your work. The beauty of a sketchbook lies in its highly personal nature. It's almost like a diary. Artists can freely experiment with new techniques, record ideas, make notes about their subjects in a safe and private place. Every artist's sketchbook is unique and offers a glimpse into their creative process, like a window into their soul. Traditionally, sketchbooks have been seen as a stepping stone where artists develop rough ideas that they might later use in the studio, and so the sketchbook becomes an aid for the larger studio painting. However, in this course, we're going to take a different approach. We're going to present the sketchbook as a final art gallery piece of work, as a work of art worthy of appreciation in its own merit. To ensure the best practice, I recommend avoiding spiral-bound books. Because the pages are bound in a loose way, what happens is this causes the pages to rub together and smudge the artwork. Instead, I prefer the binding, which is like a piece of fabric which holds the pages tighter. My favorite sketchbook is an A3 portrait cartridge sketchbook, which can open up into an A2 size piece of paper. So they're providing ample working space without the fear of coming up to the boundary of an H when you can't fit a tail on or a foot on and things like that. An essential aspect of the sketchbook experience is not to be overly fixated about using expensive or precious sketchbooks. The focus should be on your creative process and allowing yourself to feel free and have fun with ideas without inhibition. So if you're using one of these really expensive sketchbooks with the leather backing, it might be a bit too conservative and inhibit your flow. So rather than just taking all your art materials when you go out sketching, I think it's important to plan ahead and think about going live. The last thing you want to be doing is is sort of making yourself a beast of burden, carrying lots of heavy things around like a donkey. So just select what you're going to be using for the day. Maybe get yourself a nice bag and put things in it, and so it's all ready to take with you. To take part in this course, I recommend you gather together the following materials. This doesn't need to be done at the beginning, as I will go through the materials I will be using at the beginning of each of the projects. You'll be able to mix and match and use what you have and substitute one media for another, depending on what you have at hand. First of all, the course sketchbook. I highly recommend getting a course sketchbook to document your progress throughout the entirety of this program. So when choosing a sketchbook, consider the size that suits your personal needs. A larger sketchbook offers more space for the drawing in an unrestricted way, but a smaller one is more portable. Don't buy an overly expensive sketchbook to get started, just something you feel comfortable with. You can also do a lot of these exercises, particularly the warm-ups, on cheap copy paper or even newsprint. Okay, so let's start with things that I have in my kit. Okay, initially, just because it's at hand here, a putty rubber. So a kneadable putty rubber can erase graphite pencil by absorbing colour rather than wearing it away. They're soft and less abrasive than the standard razors, so they won't damage the surface of the paper. Okay, they also do a better job at making the lines disappear. Okay, next up, sharpener. Okay, is the sort of sharpener I use. So a pencil sharpener with a container collects the pencil shavings. This type of pencil sharpener is designed to minimize mess, make it easy to dispose of the shadings, and also keep you popular in museums and botanical gardens or anywhere else you might leave a pile of pencil shadings. Okay. We're also going to be drawing a lot in coloring pencil on this course. This is partly to sort of maybe break away with some possible negative associations people might have had in drawing in graphite. There will still be graphite drawing exercises. So at least a set of 12 coloring pencils. So we're going to look at, 12, that's 12 coloring pencils. So these pencils are known for their superior quality, pigment intensity, and smooth application. So when selecting a set of at least 12 coloring pencils, it's important to look for pencils which have a strong lead, which is resistant to breakage and allows for precise, detailed work. These should also have a smooth, creamy texture, which makes them easy to blend and achieve new colors. I use Faber-Castell pencils, and I've never had a broken lead. So that's why I use them, and they mix really well, and they're sort of slightly oily, and really good for color mixing. So personally, I do that. If you are going to get a Faber-Castell box, I recommend getting this type of box rather than the long tin, which always opens in your bag. So on some of the drawings, we're also going to be extending ourselves beyond the sketchbook. So if we're going to draw on a cartridge, I primarily draw on a high quality cartridge for larger drawings. Cartridge comes in at weights between 150 and 300 GSM. The latter, 300, is almost card. It's highly versatile and relatively tough. I use it with a slight tooth that can support a high level of detail. I've got a preference about 200 GSM. This one here is about 110. Perfectly fine. Also, there is one exercise in this course which is on Metien's mid-tone paper. Well, it doesn't need to be Metien's, but this is my preferred choice. It has a fine grain on one side, which is really pleasing for drawing on. The other side has a slight honeycomb texture, which is maybe more suitable for experimental drawing, or feels more coarse like a canvas. So, but that's great, and you can kind of dive down into the dark tones and build up into the lights. Okay. Next up is the dip pen and ink. Okay, so I do really recommend you getting hold of a holder and a selection of nibs. Dip pen and ink can create lively work full of expression. I recommend a medium elastic drawing nib, such as a Francoise Gillot 303 nib, or slightly more expensive, a Leonard EF Principal nib, and a quality Indian ink like this one. I use Black Magic, which is lovely. These nibs can create a fine hair-like line to medium thick line, dependent on the amount of pressure placed upon it. When you get your dip pen nibs, could you get a selection? So get 4 or 5, because they don't always last that long. Instead of the dip pen, you could also use a fine liner. Fine liners are suitable for both precise detailed work and a loose scribbling line. They're also available with waterproof ink so that they don't bleed. Markers. The most versatile markers are brush markers. The point can be just used as an ordinary paintbrush, and also the side can cover large areas of shading. These are alcohol-based media that dry quickly and are exciting to use, but do be aware they stain the other side of the paper. Charcoal. So crumbly sticks of charcoal leave microscopic particles on the paper. So we are going to be doing a charcoal drawing later. You're only going to need a few sticks. I also mix mine with a black Faber-Castell polychromos pencil, or any black colouring pencil will do, to get more detail. Various brushes are available, and it's really worthwhile you experimenting and comparing and contrasting. Don't go out and buy really expensive watercolor brushes. That's not the kind of thing we're doing on this course. There are a few different types that we will be using. A mop brush is the sort of bigger of the round brushes, and it can hold a significant amount of water, and this enables you to do easy coverage. We also have things like a fan brush that you could use for creating texture on fur. You can also use the brush and splay it out this way to make a fan brush. There's also a brush called a rigger, which is a long and thin drawing brush, which I really love. It's not in the pot, but I shall put a picture up here. The only brushes that you're going to need on this course really are the round brushes. Round brushes are the most versatile and indispensable of my brushes. With the ability to adjust the pressure, they can provide medium coverage, and they bounce back into their original shape when lifted, enabling fine detail. Their adaptability allows you to draw with the brush, leaving dynamic and fluid brushwork. Just to mention, one of my favorite pieces of equipment is this tripod easel. I created it by drilling a hole in the center of a board and then gluing that to the camera plate. It's underneath in the bottom of the board. One of the significant advantages with the tripod easel is that you can sketch at an angle and then lay it flat for watercolor. Also, when you're using a tripod easel, both your hands are free. Normally you're holding one with the sketchbook, so it gives you that additional bit of freedom. One last thing to mention that is quite good, and I always take with me, I think, on most sketching, is the sketching stool. So I always take a lightweight sketching stool with me. Sometimes there's no convenient place to rest, or sometimes the thing that you want to draw the most, there's loads of people around it or something like that, or there's nowhere to sit and do your drawing. So just a very cheap, secondhand, lightweight sketching stool, campy stool. You find them for a few pounds.